UConn women's basketball is back as they took on their first opponent of the season, Arkansas, this weekend. As much as it was a predicted win, we are going to dive into how their performance went. I'm Mahn.
And I'm Grant Mengel, and welcome to Under Review.
First, let's get into the battle of the big, starting with Aaliyah Edwards. How do you think she performed against the other two?
I expected a little bit more out of Aaliyah, to be honest, but granted, part of that was due to the foul trouble she got in early, and to be fair, a few of them were pretty ticky-tack calls, but on the offensive end, she looked good, she tried to command the boards, and she played some solid defense, so overall, not horrible, but after her performance last year, I expect more out of her in the coming weeks.
She also did score her first three-pointer that she's ever shot, and she made it, so I think she's starting to expand her shooting more and try to have the versatility that Olivia Nelson-Ododa has also tried to have in past years. Now moving on to Olivia Nelson-Ododa, how do you think she did?
Olivia played a very good game defensively. She had a handful of blocks and many other altered shots, and it seemed that some players were almost a little timid to come into the lane against her. And on offense, she had a few really nice moves, but the turnovers were what got me a little bit, is that I would have given her a B+ or an A- for her performance if it weren't for those few travels there. What about you?
I think Olivia, compared to Dorka, I expected Dorka to come out a lot more aggressive than she did. It didn't seem like she made that much of an impact in the game, so as much as they're supposed to be in competition, it seems like Olivia is just a lot more comfortable on the court with the team.
Yeah, for me, none of them stood out above the rest on offense, and on the defensive end, it was Olivia for me, and that's going to continue to earn her those minutes because Coach Auriemma needs to have that reliability on the defensive end.
We've talked about the front court a lot, but let's get into this competitive backcourt filled with freshmen. Thoughts on that?
For me, the stars came out to play. We expect great things out of Paige, Kristen, and Avina, and they all produced on Sunday against Arkansas. But when the freshmen got out there, it looked like it was their first game. We saw AZ miss a few shots we expect her to make. There were a few defensive lapses. Caroline had to travel as well. They're going to grow into these roles over time, and the more reps they get, the better they're going to be. But it's their first game. This is what we should expect out of them.
Even some of the returners didn't seem to perform that well, as Nika had no shots made, no assists. She just wasn't really playing like her usual aggressive self and wasn't even usually looking at the basket. So I'm wondering if she's like lacking this confidence, because she usually has great chemistry with Paige. So she's also kind of looking like that first beginner game kind of look.
She was still pesky on defense as always, but you're right. She just wasn't a threat on offense this game, not even looking at the basket really. And if she's going to continue to play these minutes, she's going to have to at least make it look like she can score. There's so many other options around her that she's not going to have to shoot it 5-10 times a game, but when she's open, she's going to have to take those looks.
We know that Nika can perform because we've seen it last year, but I'm just getting worried as Caroline and AZ are stepping up if she's going to have to become one of those bench players. Next, let's get into best play of the game. I couldn't choose just one. So first, I thought the Paige to AZ three-pointer just really showed the chemistry they had. Paige says that they only played together once, but they seem to practice a lot together, and that is definitely something that's translated straight from practice onto the court. Then next, we also have Paige Bueckers blocking the three-pointer early in the game. She wasn't able to get too many points in the first quarter, but she definitely started out aggressive and continued that throughout the entire game. Your thoughts?
For me, we see Paige score the ball all the time. You know, she's at a career high on Sunday with 34, but it was the pass that she had to Olivia when 3 Arkansas players surrounded her in the lane and she looked out of position like she was going to turn it over and dumped it off to Olivia for the layup.
Most valuable player of the game, I know we all expect it, but she quite deserved it. Paige Bueckers with a record high of 34 points.
And not only that, she added 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals and blocks apiece on a very efficient 15 of 19 shooting, and not to mention 0 turnovers. She really let the game come to her without scoring in the first. It was just a really impressive performance to start the year.
Big impact for her first sophomore year game. I know that she has a lot of pressure on her, but she definitely showed why she gets all these accolades. As much as this was a win, it was their first game of the season, so there's definitely a lot of things to work on, starting with foul trouble. A lot of these forwards having a lot of fouls, Aaliyah especially having to sit out for parts because She got so many. I know that this isn't something new for her, but this definitely will impact her playing time. Along with scoring accuracy, we only made 27.8% from the three-point range and 56% shooting. It's basically the same as the last Arkansas game, but 20% less accurate from the three-point range. And I know Arkansas lost some of their good players, so it makes me question if it would have been a tighter game if we were playing the same team as last year.
For me, defensive rebounding was a big issue. You can't give 15 offensive rebounds to a team like Arkansas where their bigs aren't necessarily their strength. And along with that, the defensive intensity. There was a few times in the game where there were some lapses, and yeah, you're going to get miscommunication and mistakes, but there's too many wide open layups, and luckily Arkansas missed a handful of them, which kept us up by 10 to 12 points for most of the game. And lastly, we need more contribution from the bench. Yes, like we talked about, AZ and Caroline are freshmen. They're trying to find their way. But we need more from those two, and Nika and Dorka and anyone else who's going to get into the game from there.
I think once we figure out who the main forward is going to be, a lot of these things will be worked out because they'll probably have more chemistry with the rest of the team. That's all for this episode. Next week, we're definitely going to have a lot to unpack as the women travel down to the Bahamas for a battle for Atlantis. That's all for me. I'm Mahn.
And I'm Grant Mengel. Thanks for watching.